Well, the Philadelphia Eagles report to camp today. They don't practice till tomorrow. It's finally here. And we have some news on certain things that are laughable and some news on the Philadelphia Eagles going to camp. Saquon Barkley's interview with Diana Rossini. There's a lot to go over here. So let's get straight into it.
A killer buried, but not dead.
Darren, we better turn around. Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yo, what is going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day today. So we're going to go over some news on the Philadelphia Eagles as usual. And we are on training camp eve. When the Eagles are in full pads, they finally practice tomorrow. We'll have a Nick Sirianni press conference tomorrow, then practice at 10 a.m. So the Eagles reported to camp today, but obviously around the league, you always hear news about things, okay? Now, the first thing I want to go over today is Haason Reddick. So the breaking news that was earlier today was Haason Reddick is holding out of training camp for the New York Jets. I mean, I've never seen this situation before, okay? This explains so much. And I get it. So before I even go into details about this, does Reddick deserve his money? Yes. The problem I have with this whole situation and how the Eagles gave him up for nothing as how many teams actually had interest when the Eagles tried to trade Haason Reddick? How many actual teams had interest in giving him the contract he wanted? I think that's why it was really hard to trade him. Because what team is trading for him? The pen and paper isn't even ready. The contract isn't ready. Reddick has held out of OTAs for the Jets, minicamp for the Jets, and now he's holding out a training camp over his contract. I have never seen a team trade for somebody and literally go nowhere with a contract extension or a contract that's already done already. So now I'm just sitting here wondering, like, man, like this was a bigger problem than we probably realized. Okay? Reddick stuck with his number that he wanted, and he hasn't negotiated backwards from that. Now, he's due his $14.5 million with the New York Jets. And from what it looks like, he's not going to play on it. I figured maybe he'll play on this one-year deal and then make us realize, holy crap, like if he's going to play with the Jets on this one-year deal that's remaining on his contract for $14.5 million, then something really bad happened with the Eagles. But I think the Eagles just want to go through their options, and they figured that Haason wasn't a full 100% scheme fit to this Vic Fangio defense. They were not willing to pay the 25 plus whatever he's looking for. And honestly, I think there was barely any interest. I think there was a lot of teams out there. Okay? A lot of teams out there that had no interest in having this contract already ready for Haason Reddick. So the Eagles literally went through their options and found the Jets having interest, but charged very little for the compensation. A 26 third-round conditional that turns into a second-round pick if Reddick plays over 60-something% of the snaps and has 10-plus sacks for the season. And he still hasn't signed his deal yet. So I feel like as we go through this whole process with the Haason Reddick trade, because there's a lot of questions regarding it, and do the Eagles feel comfortable in what they have after getting rid of their statistically best pass rusher that they've had the last few years? We know when we signed Haason Reddick a few years ago that, yes, it was a bargain. Haason Reddick could have signed with a million other teams, okay, for a higher price. He comes to the Eagles on a pretty low salary. A huge steal. Always want to be a Philadelphia Eagle. Obviously going to Temple. We all know this. But as this process looms further and further, and he's holding out of everything right now, going to the Jets, complex, seeing the videos of him meeting all the players and looking like he's happy to be there, and then you don't show up to any of the activities for the Jets, whether it's OTAs, minicamp, and now you're missing out on training camp. This can go really far as he can miss games for the New York Jets. And I say, and people are going to tell me, why are we going over this? Because it's very interesting. And on top of everything else, we're trying to see if we're going to get a second-round pick for 26. So, yeah, it is important to me. It should be important to all of us going forward. So this is just one of those rare situations where I've just never seen a team trade for a player like this. Obviously, Joe Douglas and Howie Roseman have a good relationship because Doug was, the right-hand man to Howie, the assistant GM to Howie. So they've worked together before. We know the relationship's there. I mean, to a point where Haason Reddick at a point where I don't know if he spoke to Robert Saleh, the head coach to the Eagles. I don't even know if he even spoke to Saleh still at this point about anything. So it's very troubling, but it seems satisfied. In my opinion, I think I'm more satisfied that maybe there was just no interest out there, that there was, the Eagles had their hands tied. They didn't want to deal with a holdout the whole entire year. They want to move on, get a lower quality but high ceiling player in Bryce Huff for the future at $17 million a year. Okay? So it's like the Jets gave away Bryce Huff that had a young player with 1 10-sack season on 43% of the snaps, heavy rotation, to go get a guy that they need right now that they know is going to produce right now. So I don't know. You get paid as an edge rusher to go after quarterbacks. That's what you get. That's where the money comes in. The money comes in from sack numbers. That's just the reality of the whole thing. Not from coverage snaps, not from making tackles against the run. It's all quarterback hits and quarterback sacks. That's where you're getting your money from, being an edge rusher. So I just think this whole thing is hilarious, and I want to know what you guys think about this whole situation, because I think this thing got really bad. I think it got really bad. And there's nothing wrong with a guy wanting his money, but the Eagles literally couldn't deal him. Like there must have not been that much interest, which is making it seem like now, because of that draft capital that you gave the Jets, this stipulation to the whole 26 third round conditional, they had to put it that way because this thing has been going on for such a long time. So holding out, and yeah, we're going to be monitoring this situation all year because we're getting a draft pick back, whether it's a third or it's going to be a second round pick by the end of the year. So we're going to find out, but I feel like the Eagles just dodged the bullet at this point and just didn't want to deal with the BS of Reddick holding out all year, and he just wasn't moving from that number. There was no negotiations, and it seems like, did the Jets even have anything ready for him? Did they offer him a contract behind the scenes and then he didn't like it? I don't know, but it's the weirdest thing to me. That's what I got to say about that. Now, we're going to be talking about Saquon Barkley, his interview with Diana Rossini that came out. We obviously be seeing New York Giants, Hard Knocks, what happened behind the scenes. Now, Saquon talks about the Eagles fans, his perspective of being on the Giants side, how he feels about Eagle fans, how they were crazy, and then being a Philadelphia Eagle and just knowing that he sees the passion, and he can't wait to score his first touchdown at home as a Philadelphia Eagle and embrace what that's going to feel like going forward. He talked about really, he came out with everything saying after that call with Joe Schoen on the phone, he was mentally gone from the New York Giants. We all know the New York Giants didn't even offer a contract on the table. They talked about it behind the scenes on offering him a contract that was almost the same as the Philadelphia Eagles. But if you have Joe Schoen, your GM, saying, hey, I want you as a New York Giant for life, and then you go and you sign, they if they even say, hey, you're going to walk in the free agency, but we want you that badly. And then they wanted, Joe wanted promise from Saquon to come back to him, and tell them what his value is, for them to have an opportunity to give him an offer. He was mentally checked out. And what he pretty much said to Diana Rossini was, all the New York Giants wanted was to get me back for cheap. And that was disrespect. So he said, quote unquote, I kind of felt it was kind of a little disrespectful, to be honest. It's kind of a slap in the face. Being the face of that offense, the face of that franchise pretty damn much. Okay. So this is why he's in another uniform. He has expressed and did express in this interview that he had a multiple of teams that were interested, but obviously want to find the right fit, knows this team really well, and he's excited for camp. He's excited to be in full pads finally. He's never been so excited to be somewhere else, and this is where he belongs. He would have really belonged anywhere else, to be honest with you, but in the situation for a Super Bowl, a situation where, he's in the division now. He's going to be facing the Giants twice a year. That's what he's kind of looking forward to. He's not going to tell you that. But I thought that was interesting. I'm not surprised over the comments from Saquon Barkley. Himself embracing himself as a Philadelphia Eagle now is one of the best things I've ever seen from him. And really starting to understand what being an Eagle fan is, and starting to see what the city means to Philadelphia sports, and how if the team loses on Sunday, no one's going to have a good week. Everybody's miserable all week when this team loses. That's just the truth. So it was really nice seeing this interview with Saquon, and, just getting a little bit more information on what's been going on. So that was pretty cool. Now, obviously, we have, Eagles camp tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of questions going into the, this camp and the competition at right guard, wide receiver 3, cornerback, how loaded it is, Isaiah Rodgers, James Bradbury trade, what's going to happen there? I mean, it's all now coming to this moment where the coaching is going to be where, these players need to be pushed in the right direction of training camp to get ready for the regular season. Obviously, a 95% new playbook for the Philadelphia Eagles, with maybe some things incorporated last year. This is it. This is the start of the process. We have to make sure these guys are healthy. We have to make sure that we are on top of our game, and these guys are having fun and they're enjoying themselves, and we don't end up in a situation like we did this going into this season 2024. So practice is tomorrow. I'm really excited about it. I can't wait for anything to happen here. And that's pretty much it. So I'll be reporting every day of training camp. We'll do some live streams throughout the week, and very excited for how the pieces come together. We're here, guys. It is here. So other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think about all the news I talked about today. If you guys haven't subscribe to the channel for Eagles news every single day. Definitely like the video. Just help out the channel tremendously. And I will see you guys on the next one. Go Birds. Shakes what up, follows. Peace out, guys. Peace.